Welcome. And tonight we have a special guest appearing with us. This is Brajasundari. Say hello.
Hello.
Brajasundari happens to be my daughter. And I said, Brajasundari, do you want to come on and tell people about chanting? She said, okay. So we brought Brajasundari here because she has a great taste for chanting. And she knows all the secrets and tools and techniques to chant well, right? So tonight we're going to be talking about developing faith and also how faith affects our chanting, either in a positive or negative way. You want to begin, or should I begin?
You should begin.
Okay, so I want to tell a couple stories about faith, just to illustrate the powerful effects of faith. And the first story Prabhupada tells. It's well, I'll tell another story first. It's even better. Not better, but different. There was a man who was working for a company, and it was a holiday, and they were closing early. So the man went into a walk-in refrigerator. Those of you who may not know what a walk-in refrigerator is, I don't know if that's an American term, but it's a refrigerator that's so large you can walk in, or you would refrigerate large quantities of items. So he walked in there to do some work, and because of the holiday they were closing the business early. So what happened was one of the workers came and locked from the outside the walk-in refrigerator, the walk-in cooler. He didn't know the man was in there. So the man's working in there cleaning, and then it's time for him to go out, and guess what happens? Door's locked. From the outside, he can't get out. And he's in the walk-in refrigerator. And it's Friday afternoon, everyone's gone, and he's thinking, here I am, I'm going to be here all weekend. This walk-in refrigerator is freezing, I won't be able to live. So he resigned himself. He was resigned to the reality he's going to die. So he wrote a note to his family telling what happened, that I've been locked in the walk-in refrigerator. It's Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. They've locked me in. They didn't realize I was there. I'll never get to see you again. I'm going to freeze to death. And he wrote this note saying goodbye to all his friends and family. So Monday morning, they came in, and guess what happened? They found him dead on the floor of the walk-in refrigerator. And they took him to the hospital, did the autopsy, and found out that he froze to death. Because you can't exist in freezing weather for very long, especially trying to sleep at night. So they found out he froze to death. Interesting thing to note about this story was the walk-in cooler wasn't plugged in. It actually wasn't cold. It wasn't cold.
It wasn't?
It wasn't cold at all. What happened was he thought it was plugged in, he thought it was cold, and because he believed that he was going to die because he was going to freeze to death, he actually froze to death because he believed that. Is that amazing?
Was that a true story?
Yeah, that's a true story. It's a true story that the belief that he believed that the walk-in refrigerator was cool. And he believed he was sitting there, and his body was freezing because he believed it was cold. The temperature while he was in it was 62 degrees. You can't freeze to death in 62 degrees. Well, if you're not in, what is 62 degrees in Celsius? About 16, maybe? 15, 16? Anybody know? Anybody who's in Celsius? Okay, Bhakta Aaron, you know? Who knows? So anyway, I think it's around there from my experience living in other places than America. Anyway, it wasn't that cool. So because he believed that, amazingly, he actually froze to death. Fahrenheit to Celsius converter 62 is 16.6. Am I good or what? Is that not, didn't I say, what did I say? 16 or 17? No. So, beliefs, what is a belief? A belief is something we feel certain about, and it doesn't have to be true. If we believe it, it becomes true for us. So how does that apply to what we're going to speak about tonight, talking about the Holy Name? What is that? Well, if you go to the Scriptures, it says so many things about the Holy Name. The Holy Name can produce so many effects upon one who chants, and so many results come from chanting. But if we don't have faith, then what happens if we don't have faith?
Then we can't do it.
We can't do it. We don't do it properly. So how do you chant with faith?
You concentrate.
Tell them. Look in the camera and tell them.
You concentrate and you don't think about other things. Otherwise, you're not like thinking about Krishna and Radha, and you're thinking about other things. So you're not concentrating on chanting.
And why would that happen?
Because you're thinking of other things, and when you think of other things, it's kind of hard to chant.
Exactly. So, what do you think about when you chant?
I think about Radha and Krishna, so I don't get distracted.
And, you know, on Lord Nrsingadeva's appearance day, Brajasundari went to Mangalarti, and then she decided she wanted to chant japa. And by the time Guru Puja came, she had chanted 12 rounds. How did you do that?
Well, I concentrated, and after all, I did chant 16 rounds.
Yeah, and she went during class. She didn't find the class so interesting, so I said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I'll go out and finish my rounds." And then one devotee came in and said, "Your daughter was outside chanting." She was very serious. How were you chanting?
Well, I wasn't thinking of other things, and even though there were so many people outside, I didn't get distracted.
You were just with Krishna.
It was just Krishna. I was in a whole different topic.
Very good. So what would you advise people to do?
Well,
They're over there.
I would say that you should concentrate and...
What should you feel when you're chanting? How should you pray?
Well, you should feel that you're getting closer to Krishna, and you should also feel that it's very, very nice to chant for Krishna, and he blesses you a lot, and you should concentrate on him and Radha and his pastimes, so you don't think of so many other things. You have two things on your mind.
Now last night, Rajasundari and I were talking about something Prabhupada said. And he said, we always want to see. We always want to see things. We want to understand things through seeing. And Prabhupada said, hearing is much more powerful. Why do you want to see Krishna? You want to hear Krishna. That way you can experience Krishna. Right? If we saw Krishna, how would we relate to him? We may not know properly how to relate. He's more merciful in his sound form. So, one of the things that I've been understanding in my own spiritual life about faith is that the Holy Name is much more powerful than we often believe. Isn't it?
It's a lot more powerful because when I went to Mangalarti and I chanted 16 rounds, and I was chanting with all the devotees, and hearing, it was a lot more powerful than I thought.
And how old are you?
7, and it really opened my heart. And it didn't feel like work. It felt like service to Lord Krishna.
a very good point. I'm going to tell a story. You reminded me of a story. There was a devotee, and he was the temple commander. He was in charge of preparing the Mayapur temple for the Mayapur festival. It's a lot of work. And he needed all the help he could possibly get. And he went to one devotee. He said, "Prabhu, I need your help." And the devotee said, "I can't help. I'm just going to chant." And he wouldn't help. He said, "I'm just chanting." And he said, "But Prabhu, there's not enough people to help, and the devotees are coming. I need your help." He said, "No, I'm just chanting." So the next day he asked the devotee the same thing. What do you think he said?
I don't know.
He said, "I'm just chanting. I'm here in Mayapur, I'm just chanting Hare Krishna." So the temple commander became so frustrated, he went to Srila Prabhupada. He said, "Prabhupada, there's so much work to do. I need every single devotee to help. And when I ask this devotee, he says, I can't help. I can't help you. I'm just chanting. That's my service, chanting." And this devotee won't do any service. And Prabhupada said, "Service?" And Prabhupada had his hand in his bead bag, and he said, "Service?" And the devotee said, "He won't do any service." Prabhupada said, "Service?" And he moved his head up, and he looked up like this, and he said, "Chanting, that is the highest service." So sometimes we may think chanting is not service. But like Rajasundari said, chanting is service, right?
It sure is service, even though some people don't think it's service.
You're glorifying Krishna. It's the scripture says it's the highest sadhana, the essence of all sadhana. It's the essence of all instructions. There's a verse, I believe Sanatana Goswami said that the holy name is the greatest jewel in Krishna's treasure house. The greatest thing Krishna can give us, the most valuable thing, is His holy name. So I want to talk a little bit about faith. So you remember the story that we told. This amazing story of a man who actually died because he believed he was in a freezing walk-in refrigerator when the refrigerator was only 62 degrees or 16.6 degrees Celsius. And he died because he believed that.
So if we can believe that we can chant, we can.
Exactly. And if we believe we can't, then what happens?
We can't.
Exactly. So, often we believe things that aren't true. Now, Prabhupada had a lot of faith in the holy name. And how can I say that? Because I was 20 years old and I was made a temple president. And I'd only been a devotee at that point. I'd been a devotee about 8 months. So I wasn't really qualified. So we could understand that Prabhupada had so much faith that I would be purified and inspired and guided by the holy name, that he could put someone as unqualified as I in charge of the temple. And then at the same time he was sending devotees all over the world. Oh, we're going to read something that Mandakini said. "Thank you so much, Brajasundari, for sharing your japa realizations. My 6 and 9-year-old children are listening with me and think that is amazing that you chanted 16 rounds on Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. I think you're inspiring them."
A 6-year-old and 9-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh.
Lightning and thunder too close to computers. Oh, Hare Kirtan. Whoa. So many of my godbrothers went around the world. You know, they're in their early 20s, been devotees less than a year, and opened up centers. So that means Prabhupada had so much faith in the holy name. Faith that the holy name would help us maintain our devotional principles, would enthuse us to give Krishna consciousness to others, keep us strong, and purify us so we could do that work. And factually we did that work. It was the holy name that was spreading. The holy name was spreading the holy name through us. Now, how could we do that? You may say, well, you were such young devotees, how could you do that? Well, Srila Prabhupada had faith in the holy name, and He gave us faith that we could do it. So, because we believed we could do it, then
we can do it.
We can do it. Brajasundari knows. Now, there's a story. It's kind of a funny story to show how belief can affect us. There is a man and his friends. I don't know what kind of friends they were. Maybe they were his friends, maybe they were his enemies. They decided they're going to play a joke on him. So what they did was they said, every day he comes up the road, so we're going to line up on the road in different places, and when he comes up the road, each one of us is going to tell him he's become a ghost. So he'd come up the road, and the first friend would see him and say, "Oh, what happened to you? You become a ghost. What happened to you? You become a ghost." And what's the man supposed to think? Are they playing a trick on me or what? And then he walks up the road another few hundred yards, and his next friend meets him. He says, "Oh, what happened? You become a ghost. Oh no, you become a ghost." And then he walks up a few hundred yards more, and guess what the other friend says?
"Oh, you become a ghost."
You become a ghost. You become a ghost. So what do you think he's starting to think?
I don't know.
3 people told him, you become a ghost.
Maybe he's thinking he's really a ghost.
Yeah, he's starting to think, oh, have I become a ghost? Have I become a ghost? So they were able to trick him, and he started believing that he'd become a ghost, even though that wasn't true. And then we have the famous story of the emperor's clothes. You know that story, right? You want to tell the story?
But was that story you just told real?
Yeah.
And did he really believe that he was a ghost
Yeah,
his whole life?
I don't know about his whole life, but at least that day.
And in the morning, did he still believe?
Yeah, because
Those 2 days?
it wasn't true, but they were able to make him believe. And if you believe something, you start to act like it's true. So he was acting like he was a ghost. Just like the emperor, you know, the clothes they made for the emperor that really weren't clothes.
They were tricking him because there was this festival coming, and these 2 people who make clothes had these looms, and the looms were empty, but it was a long time, and the king was curious what his clothes were looking like, so he sent one of his people to go look, and he said, "How are the clothes going?" And then they put their hands up and they said, "Look, that's how they look." And they said, "Oh, beautiful," but there was nothing really there. They went and told the emperor, "Yeah, they're good." And so it looked like they were putting them on the emperor, but they were really wooden. So there's this one little boy who called out, "The emperor's naked!" And then people started to whisper it. That's the story.
So the emperor, in relation to what we're talking about, he actually believed he was wearing clothes. He thought, because of that belief, he thought, yes, these are beautiful clothes. He believed that. And that belief became a reality for him, even though anyone could see, any little kid could see, he wasn't wearing clothes. But according to him, he had clothes. He believed. So that's the power of belief. So what do we believe about the holy name?
We believe that we can do it.
We believe we can do it. We believe that the holy name can uplift us. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, there is nothing in the 3 worlds but the holy name. So if we look at our faith in the holy name and compare it to that faith that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had, we can see that perhaps I do think there are other things in this world that might be equal to the holy name, or at least other things that might give me some happiness or some pleasure. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there's nothing. That is the faith of a pure devotee. And if we have that faith that there's nothing but the holy name, how does that affect our chanting? One of the offenses to the holy name is to maintain material attachments. How can we give ourselves to the holy name if we're holding on to something, if we believe something else is also of great value in our life, something that is against chanting? If that's of great value, then we're holding on. So if we have faith that the holy name can satisfy all my needs, it can elevate me to the highest perfection. It can reveal Krishna completely and my relation with Krishna. Then if we chant in that mood, the chanting comes to a whole different level. Another aspect of faith, someone may say, well, I understand that the holy name can cure anyone, but I'm special. I'm so fallen, I don't think it can purify me. And there was one man, he said, I'm so impure that if I chant Hare Krishna, I'll contaminate the holy name, so I don't chant. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
But sometimes we also think that way, I think, a little bit. We may think, well, I don't think I can really become that Krishna conscious. I could only become this Krishna conscious. On a scale of 1 to 10, how Krishna conscious can I become? Well, maybe a 3 or a 4, but not an 8 or a 9. And if that's what we believe, then when we make our effort to chant, it will be affected by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Affected by the faith we put in it. If, for example, you didn't think you could do something, you just thought, if you said, I could never do that, and someone says, no, you could do it. No, I could never do that. Then what? Would you try? If you thought you could never do it?
No, you wouldn't, because you thought you could never do it, so you won't try it.
Exactly. You don't try. So if you think, well, I could only become, on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably in this life could maybe come to a level 3 of Krishna consciousness, then what level are you going to try for in your life? On what level are you going to chant?
We're gonna try level 10.
No, but if you thought you could only go for level 3, that's what you thought your limit was.
You would try to just go to level 3.
Exactly. So that's a self-created limit. You limit yourself. Now, many of us, I'll use an example of the thermostat. You know what a thermostat is? When you set, like now in Alachua it's very hot, so we set the thermostat to cool. In our house,
the air conditioning?
Air conditioning, yes. So we have our air conditioning set to 82 degrees. How much is that Celsius? Around what? Around 21? We're going to find out how good I am at this. So what happens? The outside temperature gets over 82 degrees. The air conditioning goes on, and it brings it back to 82. 27, so we have it set at 27. So if it goes above 27 Celsius, the air conditioning goes on. If it goes way below that, then what goes on?
Heater?
The heater goes on. So no matter what the temperature is outside, once we set the thermostat, the temperature inside will remain the same. We often do that in our own Krishna consciousness. We set an internal thermostat to govern how Krishna conscious, that governs how Krishna conscious we think we can be. And when we set that thermostat, then our practice of chanting, our practice of sadhana, becomes relative to that thermostat. So I have my thermostat set on a certain degree of Krishna consciousness. I don't try for a greater degree, because I don't believe I can achieve anything greater than that.
So you have to try to believe that you can do something really good and great, so you can actually do it.
Exactly. Everybody understand what Bhaja said? She said, you have to change your belief that you can achieve something greater. Otherwise you limit your effort. I mean, in common terms, sometimes we call this the comfort zone, what you're comfortable with. But this is really different than that. It's an internal degree of faith that will it's not a faith in our ability, it's a faith in the mercy of the holy name. It's faith in the mercy of Krishna. Just like In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the verse is quoted, Mukam karoti vachalam. Mukam karoti vachalam means a person who cannot speak can recite poetry. Mukam karoti vachalam pango langayate girim. And a person who's lame, a lame person means one who can't walk, he can climb mountains. And Mukam karoti vachalam pango langayate girim yat krapa tamaham vande sri guru dinatarinam. By the mercy of Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of Guru, this is all possible. So what we may think is impossible for ourselves,
but it is possible
by mercy of Guru and Krishna. And I'm going to tell another story. You want to hear a story? This is really important point. Srila Prabhupada was given the order to spread Krishna consciousness in the English language into the English-speaking countries. And we often think that that order was given just to Prabhupada because he's the one who actually did it, who was successful. So we sometimes make the assumption, well, that order was specifically given to Prabhupada, and that's why he did it. But did you know that it wasn't just given to Srila Prabhupada? That Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave that as an open order to all his disciples. Of course, he on several occasions asked Prabhupada to do that. But Srila Prabhupada said that was an open order for everybody, not just him. And then Srila Prabhupada went on to say that, you know that verse where Lord Chaitanya said, my name will be known in every village? You've heard that verse before? Lord Chaitanya said, in every town and village of the world, my name will be known. He predicted that the chanting of Hare Krishna would go to every town and village. So, before Srila Prabhupada left India, nobody could understand that prediction. He said, what does that mean? That Lord Chaitanya's name will be known in every town and village of the world. So, Prabhupada said that no one believed that, or they thought it was some kind of metaphor, or they just believed it was India. That nobody actually believed it. And Prabhupada attributed his qualification, or whatever ability he had that enabled him to become so successful, he attributed to his belief. That he actually believed that. He didn't think that was symbolic of anything. He didn't think it was an analogy. He thought, no, Mahaprabhu said it, so it must happen. And someone must do it. I was in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada quoted this verse, and he said, if you stay in the movement, you'll get credit for doing this.
But how will you get credit?
Because by Mahaprabhu's mercy, you'll become an instrument. He'll do it, and he'll use you. So Prabhupada said, he often said, I believed in his word. That was my qualification. I had belief in his words. Now there's I'm going to tell an interesting story. Oh, there's a question. Let me tell the story first. I believe it was 1950, the first person in the world, at least in the recorded history of the world, ran a mile in under 4 minutes. That's pretty fast. So, before 1950, no one had ever run a mile in under 4 minutes. And it was said that it is physically, humanly impossible to do it. Nobody could do it. It's physically impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes. So, somehow or other in 1950, one person did it. It was the first person in the recorded history of the world to ever do that. No one had ever done it before. Ever. And guess what happened that next year? After he did it, 50 people that year were able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. In the whole history of the human civil race, recorded history, no one was able to do it, and that year 50 people did it. Because once that person did it, then everybody believed it could be done. And once they believed it could be done,
they wanted to do it.
And it empowered them. So you see how belief empowers us? So Srila Prabhupada believed in the prediction of Lord Chaitanya. He believed in the words of his spiritual master. He had faith. And because of that, he got the power to spread the holy name. And those who didn't have the belief, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't bother to do it because they would think it's not possible. So we can be very good at talking ourselves out of doing something. Or even talking ourselves out of allowing Krishna to do it for us, just like Arjuna.
I was told that when you chant, Krishna comes closer to you more than you come closer to him. He comes 10 times closer to you than you come to him.
Yes. You take a step to Krishna and he takes
10 to you.
Yeah. So we need to have faith in that. And also, you told me what? Where does Krishna go when you chant?
On your tongue.
He dances on your tongue. So to have faith that Krishna is coming closer to us, he's dancing on our tongue. And to have faith that he can purify the lowest person of all. Now, sometimes devotees say, well, I'm so low that I don't even think I can be purified in this life. So their thermostat is set on a very low setting. They don't think they can go very high in Krishna consciousness.
You don't think they can do it, and if you don't think you can do it, you can't. But if you think you can do it, you can.
Exactly. So, you know the story of Jagai and Madhai? So, Jagai and Madhai were very, very sinful. And one of the greatest lessons of this story was that none of us could ever possibly commit as many sins as Jagai and Madhai. None of us could ever be as low as Jagai and Madhai. And Jagai and Madhai, because they surrendered to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda gave their mercy, they were elevated to become great devotees. So we can't really use the excuse, well, I'm really fallen. If you believe you're really fallen, that belief is going to hold you down. Okay, you're really fallen.
Because they never believed anything.
Well, they believed in the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. You can believe you're fallen, but you can believe the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is more powerful. Right? You know what they did? What kind of people they were? You know the story?
Kind of.
They were murderers, robbers,
Really?
just merciless people. They were Brahmins when they were younger. They were just, all they did all day was drink and fight, and people were afraid of them. They would, they would just do whatever they wanted. Torment, torture, whatever. And they became great devotees. None of us are that low. So that story, one of the teachings of that story is to give us faith in the power of the Holy Name, no matter how low we are. If we believe in the power of the Holy Name, if we turn the thermostat up, yes, it can even purify someone as fallen as myself. So we have a question here. From Lochan. Lochan is asking, why do we tend to think other devotional services are more important than chanting? There may be many reasons we think that way. Braja wants to answer that question. Talking to the camera?
Well, one reason was that when we do arti, like we get to go on the altar and at the temple, and then you think it's really special to do that service.
That's a good answer. We might think other services are special.
More than chanting.
We might, we're taught that all service is absolute, but at the same time, we're given the order to chant at least 16 rounds a day, and we're told that chanting is the essence of all sadhana. And one reason possibly could be, I'm not saying this was true for you, but it's something to look at. One possible reason is, if we don't have a taste for chanting, we may want to think that other services are more important
than chanting.
Yes, because we may not want to confront that lack of taste.
But chanting is more important than anything.
Because that's Lord Chaitanya's benediction. In this age, he's endowed his holy name with all his Shakti, all his power. So Brajasundari is going to leave. I want to say goodbye. Thank everyone for watching.
Bye.
Chant one mantra for everybody.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Brajasundari. And we're talking about doing a show just for kids with Brajasundari. So stay tuned, all the children. Hare Krishna. So, yes, so if we, well, this is a very good question. I'm going to go back. I'm going to make a point about faith. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explained, if we're not chanting properly, we won't get a taste. If we're not chanting properly, not chanting well, by chanting properly or well, I mean we're not, sorry about that noise. If we're not chanting well or properly, by that I mean we're not putting our best effort into chanting. Krishna's not fully present. We may just get namabhas, a glimpse, and there are different levels of namabhas. A glimpse, a shadow of the holy name, not the full power of the holy name. Or there may be namaparad, when Krishna's not present in his name. It sounds like Krishna. It only becomes some form of piety. It doesn't deliver spiritual goods. If our chanting is on that level, then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said we'll lose faith in the holy name because we're not getting realization from our chanting. So if, just like perhaps a new person will come to Krishna consciousness, not come to Krishna consciousness, a new person will come, you ask them to chant. And sometimes you can see they're chanting and they're not really experiencing much, or maybe not experiencing anything. And then, as a result, they don't build any faith in the holy name. They don't think it really does anything. So sometimes our chanting becomes like that new person who's not experiencing anything. If we don't chant properly, then how will faith build? Then if faith is not building, then it's easy to minimize and say, well, chanting's not that important. Why would I say it's not important? Because I'm not getting any realization, I'm not getting any inspiration, I'm not getting spiritual strength from chanting because I'm not chanting properly. So then I'll tend to minimize it. And perhaps I'll do another service which I'm more inclined to do, and I'm inspired by that. So I might start thinking, well, these other services are more powerful for me. Now, Srila Prabhupada has explained that chanting is the prime means for purification, and all the other activities we do should assist in the chanting. Deity worship, assist in the chanting. If you give others Krishna consciousness, if you teach people about Krishna, if you distribute books, it enhances your chanting. And then your chanting enhances your inspiration to do your service. They work together. It's a holistic program. So we don't say chanting exists in a vacuum. We say it's a holistic program. It's balanced. We need to do many services. But of all services, chanting is the most purifying. We can't remove that and achieve the goal of Krishna consciousness. Krishna has put his complete energy into his holy name. And our relationship with Krishna, Krishna's eternal form, and our relationship with Krishna is all there. It is the Siddha mantra, it is the most perfect mantra. It's all there within the holy name. So, if you make an extra effort to chant properly, your faith will increase, because you'll be getting realization. And then your faith of how important this is, and how essentially important it is, will be very strong. So, any other questions? Lochan said, I took advantage of your advice last week about giving 100% of our senses and physical energy to chanting. It helped me a lot. Yes. It's amazing. We never lose when we give to Krishna. I mean, that's another aspect of our faith. I touched on this a little bit last week. A lot of times we hold back in our chanting because there's some fear on some level that if I give myself to Krishna, if I surrender, sometimes the word surrender may have a negative connotation. If I surrender, I won't be happy. I won't be fulfilled. There'll be something missing in my life if I surrender. I'll be giving up my independence. That's a very cherished item, is our independence. Something we hold on to dearly. If I surrender, then I'll lose my independence. So if we're taking the holy name and we're on some level afraid of surrender, we can't give ourselves fully to the holy name, because the holy name is a prayer to surrender fully to Krishna. So there's this tug-of-war going on. On one side we're chanting and we're saying, Krishna, I'm giving myself to you. But on a more subtle level, there's a lack of faith that if I do this, it's going to be a good thing. I'm afraid. So you can see how that lack of faith is holding back the chanting. So what I was suggesting last week, at least while you're chanting, just give yourself in that consciousness to Krishna. Just give it. Just do it. Krishna, I give myself to you, and take me, and I don't want anything else. I'm not holding back. The holy name is everything. It's the most important thing. This relationship I have with the holy name, it's the most important thing. I want to give everything to that. And I will never be the loser. That faith we have to have. And if we chant with that faith, then Krishna reciprocates. And then it takes our chanting to a very deep level. And the relationship becomes much... our relation with Krishna is very deep. And even in this world, relationships in this world, if we trust others, they become much deeper. Any relationship requires trust. Otherwise, you can't give yourself to a person. And that's what a relationship means. Close relationships mean giving yourself. So if we want to give ourselves to Krishna, we have to trust that Krishna will not hurt us. He will not harm us. He will not put us through anything that will not be beneficial for us. So it's often good to replace the word surrender with the word trust. I trust Krishna. I fully trust Krishna. Sometimes the word surrender can have a negative connotation. We don't want to have a negative connotation towards coming closer to Krishna. So I give myself to Krishna with full trust, full surrender, full trust. Okay. Last week we tried the exercise about not looking at different places while chanting. What about japa walks? Japa walks, depends where you're walking. On the Parikrama Marg in Vrindavan, very nice. Because everywhere you look, you'll see Krishna's pastimes. Down Fifth Avenue, at noontime, not the best place to chant. So, if you find it helpful to chant while you walk, my suggestion is try not to be looking around, just focusing on the ground in front of you or focusing on something in front of you, because when you look around, your mind becomes distracted. And as I mentioned last week, chant a certain number of rounds just sitting. It'll be better for you. Those rounds will be special. And if you do walk, it's nice to walk in nature. There's less distraction. But it's always important to remember that you're with Krishna. So when you're chanting, you want to be with Krishna. And if you're talking to somebody and you're looking around at everything other than them, it's a bit distracting, isn't it? Just like I'll do that now. Okay, right now I'm looking at you. You can see me, and I'm going to talk to you looking like this. So if we're chanting looking like this, it's a bit rude. And when you talk to someone, it's and you don't look at them, they think, well, what's wrong with him? Why doesn't he look at me? See? So now I'm looking at you, and so we want to, so to speak, look at the holy name. And again, the more we take the holy name properly, the more faith will develop, because more realization will come of how powerful that name is. I heard a talk. I want to get back on the subject of faith a little more. I heard a talk by a man who did a study, probably for the last 20 years he was doing the study. And he found that the natural, what do they call that, chatter? And the chatter from the terrorists. So there's chatter in our mind. He said, for the average person, most of the chatter in the mind is negative. It's disempowering. Well, this is never going to happen to me, or I could never do that, or I could never be a great devotee, or I could never be as good as a devotee as so-and-so, or I could never get up early, or I could never follow the regulative principles, or it's too hard to follow them, or, there's a lot of negatives that we don't even think are negative. Or just saying it's too hard to do this is a negative. So the point is that when we enter into sadhana and enter into chanting, we don't want to enter with negativity. That, like we're saying, sit down and focus your mind when you chant, and focus on looking in one place. Or if you take a walk, don't be distracted. We want to enter the mood that this is what I'm going to do, and I can do it. Not that, well, I could never do that, or that's too hard. I could. So-and-so Maharaj, he has such a taste, and he chants 32 rounds a day. I don't think I could ever do that in this life. I don't think I could be that Krishna conscious. I had a bad upbringing, and so all these things have a major effect on our ability to chant. And again, it goes back to our faith in the power of the holy name. The holy name can uplift us beyond what we think is possible. And if you look at the history of the Hare Krishna movement, that's exactly what happened. It uplifted so many devotees, far beyond what they thought was ever possible for them to achieve. And if the holy name was not powerfully working in their lives, this movement would not have spread. Because people were becoming devotees by seeing devotees who'd only been devotees for 1 or 2 years, but the holy name was vibrating in them so powerfully that they had become so renounced and so detached. As Prabhupada said, my disciples would do anything for me in a moment. That was the effect of the holy name. So, for me, I look to the horizon and not really at the surroundings, yes. The best place to chant is a place where you're not disturbed, obviously. I think you can truly surrender when you truly fall in love with Krishna, yes. The problem is we have to surrender before we fall in love. So, surrender for us, as Prabhupada said, he said, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarvadhamam Parityajya, just surrender to me. And Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya's instruction to chant the holy name is exactly the same as Krishna's instruction. So, if Krishna's made it so easy for us. If we fully surrender to the holy name, then we can say, in that sense, we're fully surrendering to Krishna. And then love will develop. It's natural. If we associate with Krishna, it's natural we're going to love him. Because he's lovable. He's attractive. If we focus on something attractive, it's impossible not to become attracted. And everyone's attracted to Krishna. So if we focus on Krishna, it's impossible not to be attracted. I remember going on parikrama in Vrindavan. And if you go on parikrama with a devotee who's knowledgeable about all the pastimes that take place at the different holy places you visit, then it's a kind of samadhi, because you're in the holy Dhamma and you're going to different places and you're just hearing about the pastimes that took place. And in that situation, everyone is blissful, just hearing about Krishna, because Krishna is blissful. Krishna is attractive. There's no one that goes on the parikrama and comes back and said, oh, those were the most depressing stories, and that was the most depressing person, and that was the most unattractive name I ever heard, Krishna, Rama, Radhe. I don't like those names. No one says that. Just, if we're absorbed in hearing about Krishna, seeing Krishna, talking about Krishna, we have to become attracted. He's all attractive. And then, from that attraction, what happens? If I have some very nice prasadam and you smell it, I could hold that plate in front of you and you'd walk with me, wouldn't you? Especially if you're really hungry. Say, come with me. You say, no, I want to stay out here, and I just say, you want the prasadam, come here. So, where there's taste, we follow. Men are attracted to women, women are attracted to men. Whatever we're attracted to, we follow, we go there. But surrendering means love and fully faith. How can this happen being in the non-bhas stage? We have to redefine surrender. In the non-bhas stage, we would say surrender means to follow the principles of bhakti. The orders of the Guru. That's our surrender. In other words, you can't love Krishna more than you love him. but at least you can discipline yourself to do the things that devotees would do who love Krishna. That's what sadhana bhakti means. It means we're doing the things that devotees who love Krishna do. And we're disciplining ourselves because we don't have full attraction for them. Just like if you're learning an instrument, you discipline yourself. And once you learn to play the instrument, then you're playing because you want to. But when you're learning, you're playing. You might be playing a little bit because you want to, but it's not spontaneous. So sadhana is the same thing. But that discipline is a form of surrender. Following the instructions is surrender. Chanting Hare Krishna. If you take a vow to chant 16 rounds a day, that's surrender. Chanting those 16 rounds, even if they're namabhas. And from that, what happens? We're associating with Krishna. We're becoming purified. So a desire to surrender more, to give yourself more. I would love to give myself fully to Krishna, but there are anarthas, there are unwanted desires there. They come up. It holds me back. But by chanting, gradually those anarthas are removed, and I can give myself more. And you'll experience that. If you're chanting properly, your desire to give yourself more fully to Krishna will be there. It will strengthen. The inspiration will be there. And it's only when you come to the higher stages of bhakti will it be more spontaneous. But sadhana is not fully spontaneous yet. But still, it's like it's a seed that's sprouting. It's not that there's no desire, and it's not that there's no spontaneity, but it grows. Okay. How can you concentrate and keep your mind from wandering while chanting japa? What should I be thinking of? This is asked by Kapila. Well, first way to start is just try to hear your chanting and don't think about school. Don't think what you have to do later. Don't think, oh, the room's too cold, it's too hot, I'm hungry. It's important to understand what you don't want to do. So you're inviting Krishna. Krishna comes when you chant. So you don't want to ignore him. So Krishna's coming in his name, and if you pay attention to his name, you're paying attention to him. And you're praying to Krishna, please Krishna accept me and let me serve you. So if you're in the mode of praying, and naturally your mind will be more focused on what you're praying. And if other thoughts of Krishna, like his qualities, come to you, and his pastimes come to you, that's wonderful. You can meditate on those. You can look at a picture of Krishna, think about what he's doing, but always try to hear. Prabhupada always told us we should hear. Menons, I tend to focus more on the musical aspect of kirtan rather than the holy name. What should I do? Very good question. Very good question. The holy name is the sweetest sound. Sweeter than any sweet music. So, if we focus on the music, then the music can become the foreground and the holy name in the background, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want to push Krishna in the background. We want to think of the music more as a frame, and Krishna's the picture in the frame, rather than the holy name being the frame. So, basically Prabhupada said we use music, we use rhythm to inspire ecstasy. Prabhupada said the drummer should drum in a way that devotees feel ecstatic, that devotees want to dance. So the music should support that kind of ecstasy. It shouldn't support a covering of the holy name. It should support us in becoming absorbed in the holy name. So if you at least remember that when you're chanting, that's the function of the music, and see if you can use that to become more absorbed. And think when there's a nice kirtan going on and someone's playing the mridanga very well, that's my call to dance in the kirtan, to become inspired. The mridanga is calling me to dance. And dancing is a very important aspect of kirtan. Prabhupada always encouraged dancing. And he sometimes would dance, and we were doubly encouraged. But he said that mridanga is there to encourage ecstasy and dancing. So, I tend to focus more on the musical aspect, yes, okay. How to get motivated to get up early in the morning, yes. This question comes up all the time. How to get motivated. Well, I'm going to give you one thought. It's a very important thought. If you take the current state of your chanting and you multiply that by the rest of your life, like in other words, the time you get up, the number of rounds you chant, the quality of rounds you chant, and that stays the same your entire life, would you be satisfied? Or do you feel that there's great need to improve, that you actually need to get up earlier, you need to chant better? Because if you feel you need to, and you just contemplate the reality that if you don't do something, then 10 years from now it's not going to get better on its own, that's quite an impetus to improve. Because things in motion stay in motion unless touched by an outside source. So our chanting is not automatically going to improve, or we're not automatically going to get up earlier. We have to make some effort. And Krishna reciprocates with that effort. So just meditate on the fact that if you don't feel your chanting is good enough, if you don't feel your sadhana is good enough, or as good as you'd like it to be, that if it didn't get any better 20, 30, 40 years from now, you would say, well, it's good enough, I'm satisfied. Then you're doing well. But if you don't feel that's true, just think, how will you feel 20 years from now? You're not getting up any earlier, you're not chanting any better. That would probably be a concern. So use that as a motivation to understand nothing happens until you make a decision. That's all you have to do, is make a decision to get up early. It's not going to happen before you decide. And you might have to wait 20 years before you decide, but that decision you make is only going to take you a second. It may have taken you 20 years to make it, but you'll make it in a second. So you can make it now, and you don't have to wait 20 years, and so you'll have 20 years of benefit of better chanting. So think of it in that way. It's just a decision. Okay. How do realizations come, and what is their importance? Realizations come in proportion to our desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. Because why would Krishna give anyone realizations to advance if they don't want to advance? If you don't want to advance, he'll give you realizations how not to advance. Have you ever noticed that when material energy becomes a little more powerful in your life, it begins to become more and more attractive, and you start to see ways in which it's attractive, or ways in which you can enjoy it? And have you noticed that when you're more Krishna conscious, it tends to be less attractive, and you see more ways in which you can get out of it, and ways in which you can serve Krishna? That's all Krishna reciprocating with your desire. So realizations are simply reciprocal. And the more you intensify your need for Krishna, the more you intensify your desire to be Krishna conscious, the more those realizations come. I see realizations as gifts. I think, oh, Krishna's giving me a gift. He's showing me how to advance. Now, at your birthday party, someone gives you a gift. What do you do with the gift? I think it's disrespectful. If you look at the gift and go, oh, look at that gift. I don't like that gift. It's disrespectful to the person. Sometimes people would give Prabhupada something he didn't really like, but he put it on. They'd give him cowboy shirts. You see in old pictures like 1970, 1969, he's wearing cowboy shirts with pockets, with these slit pockets, and they look kind of like uniforms. So, and sometimes he would wear them. People gave that to him. So, any realization we get, it's a gift from Krishna that he's giving to us, and we should thank Krishna. Krishna, you're so kind. You've given me a realization to help me advance in devotional service. So what should I do with it? I should thank Krishna for it by applying. Whatever Krishna taught me, apply that, and he'll give me more. So, okay, where are we? Yes, how do realizations come, and what is their importance? Well, the importance is, this is how we advance in Krishna consciousness. Tadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna gives intelligence. And you'll notice that. You'll always notice that. If you're looking to see how to advance, Krishna will always give you that intelligence. If you're looking how to enjoy, Krishna will give you that intelligence. If you're looking to be apart from him, He'll help you be apart from him. That's the dangerous side of it. If the desire is to be away from Krishna, he gives us the inspiration and the intelligence how to do that. And he makes everything separated from him attractive. And that's a very dangerous position to be in. I don't want to see things that are not in relation to Krishna attractive. And Maya is very attractive. Prabhupada said Maya is attractive because it's Krishna's energy. So unless Krishna is there as a comparison, then Maya looks very attractive. If you're a salesman and you want to sell a better product, and a person's looking at a lower product, bring in the better product. And by comparison, the lower product is not going to look as good anymore. It's a good way to sell. And if you're going to a store and you don't want to spend a lot of money, don't look at the better products. Because once you look at the better products, you won't like the less expensive ones. If you don't look at the more expensive products, the less expensive products will look, generally you'll think, this is great. So if Krishna's out of the picture, Maya's very attractive. It's even attractive when Krishna is there. But the idea is the more Krishna is there, the less attractive she is, because Krishna is obviously many times more attractive. So, how can we be free from having material desires and only ask for service while chanting? Well, here's an important principle. This is a really good question, because sometimes we can't be free from material desires. I believe I was speaking about that last week or the week before. That what do you do when you have desires? Because there appears a paradox here in this question. How can we be free from having material desires and only ask for service while chanting? We may have material desires, but we can't ask for service while chanting. Material desires, it is said we should not maintain material desires. Maintaining material desires means we're feeding them. As if you maintain something, it means you're taking care of it. So one of the offenses is not to maintain. So it doesn't say it's an offense to have them. It's an offense to maintain them. And Rupa Goswami defines pure devotional service as service which is not motivated by fruitive desire or the desire to merge with Krishna, or desire just to have knowledge but not surrender. We're talking about motive. So if we distinguish having a desire from motive, I may have a desire which is separate from Krishna. But if my motive is to serve Krishna for the right reason, then I can subdue that desire, or even say, even though that desire is there, I won't act on it, and I will be motivated to serve Krishna for the right reason. We can do that. That's a definition of pure devotional service. That's pure devotional service in the green mango stage. It's not fully ripe, but it's still pure devotional service. I have the desire, but I can act. Just like Arjuna, he was fighting on the battle of Kurukshetra, and his son was killed, and he was lamenting. And a man asked Prabhupada, he said, how is this that Arjuna's a pure devotee, he's hearing from Krishna, and he's lamenting for his son who was killed? And Prabhupada said, it's natural. If your son is killed, you will lament. But Arjuna didn't leave the battlefield. That shows he was a pure devotee. Even though he lamented, said that the wise should not lament, Prabhupada said, but it's natural, you lament to some degree if your son is killed. But he didn't give up his duty. So even he was lamenting, he didn't give up his duty. So even material desire is there. Still, we can be motivated for the right reason. We cannot give up our duty. We can tolerate those desires. Krishna tells Arjuna, tolerate the desires like the rivers entering the ocean. And so, chanting. Say, how can we ask for service while chanting? Chanting is a prayer for service. So if we understand that is what we're praying for. Hare Krishna, I'm praying for service. And what kind of service? I'm praying for pure devotional service. I'm not praying for motivated service. So by understanding that this is the meaning of the mantra, and being in touch with the meaning, then we can be praying in the right mood. We're asking Krishna, please, let me pray for pure devotional service. Even I don't even want to pray for pure devotional service. Even as I was saying, I might be afraid of pure devotional service. Still, we can pray to not be afraid. We can pray not to be afraid of pure devotional service. That's the idea. How to recognize the realization. Should we look for them? You can look for them, but I don't think you have to look very far. anything, you say, well, are you asking, how do I know this is really a realization? In general, we can say if it brings you closer to Krishna, it inspires you in devotional service. If it's pleasing to Guru and Krishna, it would likely be a realization. Now, if many devotees are disagreeing with you, you might consider that perhaps it's just a misunderstanding you have, and it's not really a realization. So, if they're senior devotees, you can also express your realizations to them and ask them, what do you think? Okay. Should we look for realizations? Prabhupada said we should write our realizations. That's one way of finding your realizations, is to write. Even if you don't have any realizations, write. Of course, everyone has realization. If we don't have some realization, we can't go on. And we should want realization. Prabhupada said we should look at Krishna consciousness from different angles of vision. So that is kind of, you could say, we want to realize Krishna by looking at Krishna conscious philosophy in different ways. The more realization, the better. The more we can realize about Krishna, the more we can transcend the modes of nature, the more we can become attracted by Krishna. As I was saying, Krishna is all attractive. There's nothing that's not attractive. And if we go back to the subject of faith, then the more realization is there in Krishna consciousness, the more that builds faith. Krishna consciousness is the process of developing faith. And I was briefly talking about this, Lachan saying, well, you said about trusting ourselves to get advanced. Krishna says, and one who nahi kalyana kaschid durgatin tattagacchati, one who does good is never overcome by evil. Trusting ourselves also means that it means sincerity. One who does good, one who is sincere is not overcome by evil. It is sincerity which brings one to Krishna consciousness. It is that sincerity that will keep one in Krishna consciousness. So, if one is sincere, or we say true to oneself, then we can trust that Krishna will be guiding us. And if other people feel that we're being misguided, we can think that Krishna is speaking to us through them, that somehow my channels are blocked and Krishna can speak through someone else. When Srila Prabhupada was asked to take sannyas by one of his godbrothers, he said that he felt Bhakti Siddhanta was speaking through that godbrother. So sometimes maybe Krishna is trying to speak to us, but we're not hearing him, or hearing him well enough. Krishna may speak through another person. Mandakini is saying it's also helpful, in addition to writing, to share realizations with someone you trust. Yes. Speaking about Krishna, bodhiantas parasparam. Devotees are always talking about Krishna. That's what devotees want to talk about. It's pleasing. No other topic is as pleasing as talking about Krishna, and no other topic is as beneficial as talking about Krishna. We want to realize Krishna as much as possible, and oftentimes realization just comes from speaking formally, verbalizing. We do this in our seminars and retreats. We ask devotees questions, and then we ask them to share the answers to those questions with a partner, or share with a group. It helps solidify what their realizations are. It helps them go deeper, and that's the power of speaking. That's why we speak Krishna consciousness to other people, because by giving Krishna consciousness, by articulating the philosophy, we think of Krishna, we become inspired, and we go deeper ourselves. So, it is 9:12. We're getting to the end. We're going to have to stop soon, but there's a question here. Mandakini says, sometimes you have hindsight realizations when speaking with others. Yes. And the other kind of realization, there's hindsight, there's another kind of realization where you have a realization that you don't realize you have until a situation comes up, and then you apply that realization in the situation. It took that situation to bring out the realization. That you had the realization, it took that situation to make it come to the surface. you've learned so many things in Krishna consciousness. It's like men get trained, women also now, they get trained to go to battle. So when you get out in the battlefield, you start to use what you've learned and you realize you know more than you think. So realization is like that often in difficult, for example, in difficult situations we might get many realizations of things we know, but there was no facility, so to speak, to apply those realizations. Trusting that we can reach our aims, that's important. Having faith that we can do it. If it was Bhakta Henry, you know Bhakta Henry? Bhakta Henry said, if you think you're going to succeed, you're right, and if you think you're going to fail, you're also right. That was Bhakta Henry. He was one of the original forefathers of the Krishna conscious movement. Henry Ford, Ambarish's grandfather, great-grandfather, Bhakta Henry, he said that. So we have faith in the version of Shastra that a dumb man could speak poetry, a lame man could cross mountains, and a blind man could see stars in the sky. We're all dumb and blind in a certain sense, spiritually. And so we have faith that we can become great devotees by the power of the process. And if we have that faith, then we shoot for a higher goal. If we don't have that faith, then those who don't think they can do something generally don't shoot for that. And Prabhupada always encourages us to shoot for pure devotional service. And not only shoot for it, but that we could achieve it. So, yes, hindsight. And also, I also liked what you said last week, that this service here is so important to you and you need it. Yes, I need to teach people about the holy name for my own benefit. We all need to teach people about Krishna for our own benefit. It's the most, teaching people about Krishna is samadhi. We're totally focused on Krishna when we're speaking about him. Can you explain hindsight realizations? Okay, so this question is from Mandakini. Can you explain what you mean by hindsight realizations? You mean talking about something you realized in the past? Or what you should have realized in that situation, and now you realize what you should have done? That could be, until she, hindsight realizing now how Krishna was arranging things in your life in the past, such as I realized that Krishna was arranging for my parents to let me become a devotee at a young age. So in other words, in the situation, you didn't realize it at the time, and then in hindsight you realize what's happening. You didn't see Krishna's hand at that time. That's a wonderful realization. I think hindsight realization, we should always have that kind of realization. Oftentimes when things are difficult or things aren't going our way, if we have faith, then we'll think, this is all perfect. Krishna is doing something that's perfect for me in my situation, for my realization, for what I need. I don't know how it's perfect, I can't see it. Just like Arjuna didn't see how it was perfect. He went on the battlefield and Krishna, when Arjuna said, Krishna, show me who I have to fight, it wasn't by accident that Krishna drove Arjuna's chariot in front of Bhishma and his other teachers. That's exactly where Krishna drove it for a purpose. And then Arjuna saw Bhishma and said, I cannot fight, he's my grandfather. And Krishna said, no, let's talk to Bhishma. Let's see what he says. So they actually went and spoke to him. And Bhishma said, no, Arjuna, I want you to fight. I want to be killed by your arrows. I want to be touched by these arrows because your arrows are the same as Krishna's. I want to be kissed by them. This is my relation with Krishna. Arjuna wasn't expecting to hear that. So we can think there's always something good behind the scenes. Krishna wouldn't do anything which is not good for us. Even if apparently it's very bad. I was just reading today, Prabhupada said that. He said, just like sometimes a parent will punish their child, and it's a severe punishment. So sometimes Krishna severely punishes us. But we should always think, there must be a reason Krishna is doing this. There's some impurity that he's getting out of me by doing this. There's some desire that's going to come out of this that's going to bring me closer to him. We may not be able to see it. I mean, in Krishna's time, this life is a flash. We think it's a long time. And the struggles we're going on are just a flash in eternity. And if we need to suffer, or if we are fortunate enough to suffer in a way that brings us closer to Krishna, that's a wonderful thing. And Krishna knows that. And if we love Krishna, he doesn't have to put us in difficulties, because we'll naturally, spontaneously go towards him. Why will he have to punish us? It's just that we're reluctant, so he pushes us a little bit. Yes. So, okay. The KC message in the lyrics, and shaping yourself, slapping yourself on the forehead. Hindsight is listening to a CD of a band you loved 22 years ago and hearing the KC message in the lyrics, then slapping yourself on the forehead. Duh! Our prayer should be, Krishna, if I'm ever foolish enough to do something stupid, just kick me in the rear end so before I fall on my face. Whatever you have to do, just don't let me forget you. Don't let me leave you. That should be our prayer. So we're going to end tonight, and we will thank you for coming, and we will see you next Tuesday, and the subject I will reveal. I don't know what it is yet, but it's going to be very special, and if you are on the Krishna.com mailing list, then you'll find out, and if you're not, how do they get on? We will tell you how to get on. You can get on the mailing list and then be informed whenever these broadcasts go on.
I have no idea.
We are looking, and we're going to show you in a minute. Can they see what's on? No, you're seeing me now. Okay, so he's going to tell us in a minute. And there, Krishna consciousness is, nowadays, the real trick that we're dealing with is that so many of us are not living in communities. So, and we know how important association is. So we have a little bit of a handicap, and so we have to learn how to, to deal with that handicap without having a lot of association to remind us, or other devotees there to wake us up. In a sense, we have to be stronger, and in that way we can see that's good. It forces us to become stronger. But these are kind of things that I like to talk about, that how we can look at Krishna consciousness in a way that we can become stronger on our own when we're not in the so-called ideal situations, and then take advantage of those situations which are not ideal and turn them around and take a negative and make it a positive. So if there's a lack in our life, or there's something missing, then look at that, confront it, deal with it, and pray to Krishna to give you the intelligence to turn that around. And pray to Krishna to give you the intelligence to improve all aspects of your bhakti. And Krishna will do that, even in the most unlikely situations. And I've been in so many situations which were ideal for being Krishna conscious, and I wasn't. And in situations which were not ideal, and I was very Krishna conscious. So that's a very, speaking about beliefs, that's a very positive belief, a very good belief to have, that Krishna consciousness is not dependent on external situations. There may be, being in Vrindavan is obviously an advantage, but it's not that everyone in Vrindavan is Krishna conscious, and everyone who's not in Vrindavan isn't. So, if we have the belief that we can be Krishna conscious in any situation, if we take advantage of those situations, even so-called negative situations, then it's a great advantage. So now, what we have here, you can see the links for previous broadcasts. Yes, we're working on a quick and easy way for you to be added to the mailing list. Until then, you can send an email, including your email, to Krishna.com. What is it? Krishna.com at Krishna.com, and say you want to be on the mailing list. And I believe this is the 4th broadcast I've done. So other broadcasts, are they available now? Or 2 of them are available. More will becoming. Okay? Thank you. We'll see you next week. Hari Bol.